Hey everyone, let's wrap up June. As usual, let's start with the videos. The first video I uploaded in June was the BookTube Real Talk tag, and it was a lot of fun to do that and talking to you in the comments, so thank you very much for that. I also uploaded the Thoughts Before Coffee again. It's an unusually long one. I know usually those videos are a minute long, but I felt the need to talk about once, and I loved the discussion and comments that you left, and yes, very good ideas, and thanks for sharing that with me. And as everyone else on BookTube currently, I did the mid-year freak out tag, and it was fun to look at all the things I have read this year. Also, thank you for the comments for my letter to June. That one was uploaded as usual. There were 2 more videos about books as well. I uploaded a Friday Reads and talked about the books I read on vacation. So let's move right on to the book. The first book I read was a DNF, just one damn thing after another. I really couldn't get along with it. The premise of this book is time-traveling historians, which sounds awesome and steampunky and fun. But the writing unfortunately did not gel with me at all. I felt disconnected to the time that has passed, and also the time-traveling historians were not really time-traveling. There was nothing happening. It was just mentioned and told. There was a lot of telling going on. I DNF'd about halfway through after something happened in the relationship between 2 characters, which I thought was totally out of character for both of them. And it was so awkwardly written that I was like, nope, I'm done. No need to waste more time on this. The next book I read on vacation was much better. Strange Weather in Tokyo. I read the English translation as a normal novel and the German translation as a graphic novel, which was really nice. But let's talk about the story. This is a novel about a young woman at the end of her 30s who at one night meets her old teacher in a bar, and they start talking. And from there on they keep meeting by accident until they start meeting on purpose and doing more things together. And I really enjoyed this novel. It's looking at the life of the woman. We see everything told from her perspective and how she looks at her life as an employee in Tokyo and living alone, being alone, also sometimes about being lonely and trying to get to grips with herself and her emotional state and her relationship status. And it's really interesting. I love the writing, how it got you from one event to the next event. It mentioned other things going on in their lives, but mostly focused on the time they spent together. Really enjoyed it. The last physical book I read on vacation was The Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and I highly enjoyed this. I've been putting off reading this for a while because I was scared I wouldn't like it. Everybody loved it, so yeah, of course I'm scared I wouldn't like it. And I was very surprised by the magic and the world that was created. We basically have a multiverse with different worlds layered on top each other, which have different levels of magic. And at some point those worlds were connected, but now they're separated. And there are some people with magic who can cross the doors between those worlds. And this is a person we're following, someone who moves between worlds to be a messenger basically for the kings. And all the cut-off worlds have different levels of magic, like I mentioned before. So at one point he meets a thief from the world where there is basically no magic left. And they start on an adventure together for reasons that will be explained in the book, of course. And I really enjoyed this. I liked the world that was created. I really liked our 2 main characters and their interactions. I also really liked the villains. Not in that I liked them, but they were villainous villains that really, really scared you and you really couldn't see how you could win against them. And that was very well done. Highly enjoyed. Another thing I have to mention, this is the first in a series, but it can be read as a standalone, which is what I'm doing because I know that the second book comes with a cliffhanger and I don't want to deal with cliffhangers. Not right now. The last physical book I read in June was The Lung Captain by Chris Wooding. This is the second book in the adventures of the Catty J. I read Retribution Falls in 2013 or something. And of course I forgot all about the characters, what was happening, and needed to find my way back in. In my Friday Reads video, I talk about how I was not really sure where the story was going as something happened that was basically male-spurned ego. And I didn't want to have that. But Chris Wooding did a good job at not giving the man the support. Basically, he showed them being stupid and said like, no, 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 that's not your right. You messed that up, and showed us how things evolved and managed to go further. Also, the story it's a quest story. They try to get something, then they get it, then it gets stolen from them, and then they want to get it back, and adventure. I think it started off slow, but it really got better halfway through as you got more and more into the characters again, more and more into the actual story that was going on. Also, the more you found out how the characters struggled with their demons and how to deal with their demons. I mean, personal demons, not real demons. We have those in this world too. Other thing to talk about, but I really liked how deep we got into the characters and how much more the crew turned into a crew and a group of friends. Really enjoyed that. I also listened to 2 audiobooks in June. The first one I finished on vacation, The Bassoon King by Rainn Wilson, which is basically his memoir. He narrates it himself. I'm not a huge Rainn Wilson fan. I have heard of him, seen him in some things, but didn't know much about him. But I think he's a very interesting person. It was very interesting to hear about his life and how he got to where he is now, and I enjoyed it. Can highly recommend it. The last audiobook I listened to was Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol. I listened to an English translation, and as with the Russian classics that I've been trying to get through, I don't think it matters which translation you have. They may vary little, but I don't think they vary that much that you like one translation and really, really dislike the story because of another. At least I hope that's that way. Aside from that, the audiobook was very well done, and I really enjoyed the production and the narration. The story, I went in blind, and it started off confusing me a lot with this man coming into a new town, asking everybody around, like where they're from, if they have land, if they have souls or serfs or servants. And then he started off convincing them to sell them their dead souls, meaning people who died since the last census, but they still had to pay tax on them. People that are dead that cost money. And in the beginning I was very confused where the story wanted to go until we really find out why he does this. Then you get to understand things a little bit better. But it's not the actual story that really hooked me to the beginning of the book. It was more the writing, how the author commented on everything and how he criticized and characterized different people and different peoples, and really gave you an idea of what he thought about others. And also when he talked about that he had to be careful because people took things the wrong way. So he also included the reaction that people had to books and written words. So that was very interesting. But that was the first part. The second part confused me a bit. There were often passages where it says pages were ripped out of the manuscript. There's a huge part missing in the manuscript. And I was like, is this part of the story now or not? The place also changed in the second part. So we were at a different place with a lot of new characters, and the tone changed from criticizing to showing us people who really did a good job at living and doing the right thing. So he praised characters instead of criticizing them. And you could have an idea of where things were going, but then the book ends mid-sentence and I was confused. So I did what every clever person does nowadays. I googled it and I found out that Gogol tore out pages of the manuscript of the second part and burned the rest of everything that he'd written. He'd intended to write a trilogy similar to the Divine Comedy, showing us what's wrong, what's right, and how our main character gets there. But we never get an ending, and I'm not sure if I would have liked to know that before. Now I've told all of you, but I'm also pretty sure that no one but me goes blind into classics. So it was worth reading for the beginning. I really enjoyed the writing. I really enjoyed the story after I got into it, and really everything he talked about. The second part, I did like the writing. It did have a less lighter tone. It was more serious. But I really enjoyed how it was done, even though it was more confusing. But that was mostly due to the missing parts. And I don't know if I'm so sad that there is no ending, because as the second part was less fun, I imagine the third part would be even less fun. But I don't know. Anyways, I enjoyed it. Those were all the books I read in June. Let me know in comments how your June was, if you had good reads, bad reads, if you enjoyed what you were doing. I don't know. It's summer, it's sunny, and let's talk books. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.